as the PS for economic planning, this discussion is because Migori is an agricultural county, and we have mentioned what it does, but it still has many challenges, faced by the people of Migori. And this probably is why we are here, to look at bringing private sector on board so that systems work efficiently and government provide the needed oversight. From an economic planning perspective, and with a mandate to coordinate the formulation and implementation of both long-term development vision, midterm plans and sectoral strategies, privatization and commercialization are tools to fix such system where government-run enterprises are slow or are no longer delivering value. When done properly, as we are doing, they bring investment, improve our livelihood, and modernize the way we do business. This is exactly what the better agenda is all about. Bottom-up growth. Well-structured privatization opens opportunities for the local suppliers, transporters, artisans, youth-owned enterprises, and cooperative. It expands value chain instead of concentrating wealth at the top. But this only helps when reforms are designed with the people in mind, as it is being done by under the leadership of our CS, of course, together with our beloved president. And when this is done and regulated firmly within the public interest, let me be clear about what privatization is not. According to the planning, economic planning perspective, it is not selling the public asset. It is not abandoning strategic sectors. It is not creating private monopolies that exploit citizens. This is not done in closed doors. We are here to talk to the people. So I want to say that when government is doing this, a question was asked whether we are taking interest or we will take care of the citizens so that they are not exploited. Government is doing this within the legal framework, Privatization Act 2025, which requires, number one, transparency, public participation, and parliamentary oversight. This law exists. It will ensure that no asset is disposed of casually, and wananchi understand what is being done. Quickly, I just want to touch on citizens' role. Citizens, they have a role. Public dialogue, like we are doing, builds trust. You have asked very pertinent questions, which I know the CS will be able to respond to. Allows concern to be heard. So many concerns will be aired, and helps us as government to adjust reforms to the local realities. Your feedback on service quality, affordability, and access is not an obstacle to reform. It is what makes reform legitimate. In closing, I want to say this. Privatization is not ideology or selling off Kenya. It is about making public assets work harder for the people, reducing pressure on the national budget, improving service, and creating opportunity at grassroots. We have seen it work through Safaricom. Under MTP4 and better, our responsibility is to apply these lessons learned carefully, transparently, and inclusively, so that counties like Migori see the real benefit in jobs, in incomes, and better services. This, I believe, is the conversation we are having here today. I want to stop there and assure you that under the leadership of the CS, the National Treasury has been very proactive in ensuring we leave no one behind. Together with this initiative, the CS will be moving around the country in all the 47 counties, doing what we call Gumzo la Uchumi Mashinani. At least we had a Swahili member of parliament here, ambaye alitukanganya kidogo, lakini anaweza eleza hiyo inamaanisha nini. Gumzo la Uchumi Mashinani is CS reaching out to you and having a candid discussion on our economy and where you want it to be tomorrow. With that, those few remarks, it is now my singular honor to ask us to be upstanding as I invite CS John Buddy. Let's clap for him. Asante sana.
Let's have our seats, kindly. Let's have... Hiya. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me begin first by giving the formal address to this gathering. And I would start by recognizing the representatives from the University Students Association who have helped me in organizing this forum. Esteemed student team leaders or team members, members of the business community, members of Bunge la Wananchi, my team from the National Treasury, the national government officials led by the county commissioner, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think it's afternoon now. Good afternoon. Let me first start by extending to you all a warm welcome to this stakeholder engagement forum. I wish to thank you all for finding time to attend this very critical event that provides us with an opportunity to share our views on the management of public resources in the country, and particularly in the budget process, more so as it relates to our development agenda. So at that point, I want just to mention that today's engagement was covering not only privatization, but also the budget-making process, which has just begun. The coming month of February, we are going to table into the National Assembly, to the Parliament, actually, both houses, our budget policy statement for 2026-27. And therefore, this engagement is very important. It is not an academic exercise. It's an engagement that is going to inform what will be coming into our budget estimates for 2026-2027. So I want to mention that this process built up not only from the meeting held on the 10th of December 2025 in Nairobi, where I launched the National Budget Students Fora with the sole purpose of embedding a youth-centric perspective into our national economic decision-making processes, but also from my previous engagements with Bunge la Wananchi on budget process. Remember last year, I had a historic engagement at Jivanji Garden with the public, more particularly Bunge la Wananchi, on the 2025-2026 budget. That was followed with other engagements, notably in Mombasa, Eldoret, and Kisumu. So during the students' launch, it was agreed on the need for a wider engagement with the youth of this country in their respective regions on matters pertaining to public financial management. Further, in view of the recent government efforts on privatization, it has been deemed fit to broaden this engagement to include the business community and the Bunge la Wananchi for a more comprehensive stakeholder information and participation. The successful engagement with the Bunge la Wananchi in the last financial year could only be built upon. Feedback from the Bunge membership has been that this engagement must continue. The National Treasury's engagement with members of the business community is also not new. Under my watch, it has been definitely been enriching in shaping my resolve to have in place more inclusive policies that allow more Kenyans to participate in public resource management. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to emphasize that this is not just a policy initiative, but rather a legal obligation rooted in Article 201A of our Constitution, which mandates for public participation in all financial matters so as to enhance transparency, accountability, efficient utilization of resources and value for money in the management of public resources. And I think other speakers who have spoken ahead of me have also mentioned the same. So then it means Kenyans are already resonating very well with our Constitution. So at the National Treasury, we have come to the realization that the government alone cannot effectively respond to the multifaceted challenges facing our country, particularly on unemployment, gaps in skills development, digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and inclusive governance for a demographic dividend. In this regard, I have prioritized stakeholder participation as a key dimension of governance and one of the pillars for a sustainable development. We shall enhance collaboration with our stakeholders, including the youth, private sector, experts, civil society organizations, volunteers, and local communities, which is ever more critical. My forging partnerships and collaboration and public engagement will harness the government ideas and skills and resources of diverse stakeholders to better deliver services and policies in transformative ways and address the existing gaps in financial, human, and technical resources. I wish to reiterate that the youth are a significant demographic of our country, making up 75% of the population, with a potential for contributing towards economic development of the country. And in this regard, their voices must be central to how we plan, how we allocate resources, and how we utilize the allocated resources. This has therefore necessitated a shift in public financial management towards inclusive and participatory governance, where citizens, including our youth, actively engage and participate in policy formulation and act as co-creators of government policies and services. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has adopted privatization as a strategic economic policy shift to promote efficiency in the economy by subjecting more services to market forces, to improving competitiveness, revenue generation, aid in fiscal consolidation path by reducing government spending on inefficient state corporations and market development by deepening Kenya's capital market. The objective of our privatization agenda is to ease the burden of governance of these institutions from the government to the private sector, who are better equipped for the market economy. The National Treasury will, in this regard, continue with sound macroeconomic policies to enhance resilience and create a conducive environment for the private sector, including the local business communities, to thrive. This strategic response is anchored in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and also in the fourth medium-term plan. These frameworks prioritize sectors with high youth employment potential, such as agriculture, micro, small, and medium enterprises, housing sector, healthcare, and the digital and creative economy. These sectors are not only engines of growth, but also platforms for innovation, entrepreneurship, and job creation for the youth. Over the recent past, the youth of this country have expressed themselves over important national issues, which included high living costs, unemployment, and governance transparency. I'm sure we can all still remember what happened in 2024. What happened in 2024 was the youth expressing themselves on governance issues in this country, telling those who are in leadership that they care, that the youth are concerned about governance and about transparency. These concerns are valid and demand our immediate attention. The government has committed to transforming these frustrations into constructive dialogue and tangible solution and action. This forum, therefore, provides the perfect opportunity to provide our feedback on the necessary actions from the government to address these challenges. So during this process, we will welcome positive critique of our public financial management systems and policies to shape the budget process. And that is why I like the way the student from Rongo University came out with weaknesses. He said he was going to concentrate on weaknesses, and I think I welcome that. Your active engagement in this process will ensure efficient and transparent use of public funds, ensuring that resources allocated to address youth empowerment achieves the intended objectives. So during the launch of this process, I was elated to have received a written memorandum outlining some practical measures through which we can enhance financial support for students in tertiary institutions. We have noted the valuable feedback which includes strengthening financial support for students, financing, reforming students' loan financing through fiscal policy, targeting student grant funding for vulnerable students, facilitate provision of affordable students' accommodation, and establishing an emergency student support fund. This will be consolidated alongside the views from this regional fora for consideration during the preparation of the financial year 2026-27 and the medium-term budget process. Let me pause a bit just to mention that what we are doing here today is not going to end in Migori. We have purposed as National Treasury under my leadership to have 7 engagements across the country on the budget of 2026-2027 and privatization as a concept. From here, tomorrow we will be in the Western region, Kakamega, to be specific, on the same engagement. Then on Sunday, we will proceed to North Rift and engage in Eldoret. Then following week, we are going to engage South Rift residents in Nakuru, and then the following day, we will do Kiambu for the former central province. And then the following week, which will be the final leg, we will be proceeding to Garissa for the northern region, and then the following day, do Kilifi for the Greater Coast region or coastal region, and finally we will end with Meru for the wider eastern province. And I want to also mention, as I have just read on the issues of education, and capture this, that out of this engagement, if those of you who are proactive, who have gone ahead to check the BPS for 2026-2027, you will realize that we are proposing to increase funding for higher education loans board from 41 billion to 58 billion. That's almost 40% increase in that funding. We are also proposing to enhance the university scholarship from what it is today of 16 billion. We are proposing to enhance it to almost 34 billion. That is another increase of about 16 billion. Now, that is a demonstration that the engagement we have been having with the youth and the students is not in vain, that we are listening. So we will make those proposals to Parliament. Parliament will consider and approve. I want to respond at this stage that I've heard some people say that we are defunding education as a government. Far from it. let me be categorical. The truth is that education requirement is very high. But we have made deliberate efforts to make sure that we make education affordable in this country. And that is why, if you look at the budget for education in 2022 and what we have proposed for 2026-2027, it's an increase of about 150 billion going to the education sector. So whoever is claiming that we are defunding education is being economical with the truth. We are actually enhancing the budget for education, and I was looking at the numbers. Last financial year, which is the current financial year, the current financial year 2025-2026, we have provided 703 billion for education. But in the coming financial year, we are even proposing a higher figure, moving from 703 billion to 748 billion. That is an additional 45 billion shillings going to the education sector, even with the financial challenges we are facing. I wanted just to underscore, because many of us have spoken about funding education, I wanted to underscore that at this stage so that it comes out clearly. Furthermore, we are also aware of the financial strains facing our public institutions, which impact the quality of education and future prospects of our youth. Our strategy emphasizes increasing funding, as I've mentioned, also dealing with infrastructure development in the schools and other learning institutions, and curriculum reforms to equip students with the skills relevant to the evolving job market, particularly in areas like artificial intelligence, data science, green technologies, and vocational trades. Not forgetting the investment that we are putting in employing additional teachers. This we have spoken about, and I continue to speak about it, that this government from 2022 to date has employed 76,000 additional teachers, a record in 3 years, and we are going to employ 24,000 more teachers in this financial year. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, the government has been in the process of formulating the 2026-27 and the medium-term budget. We have in this regard prepared a draft 2026 budget policy statement containing the proposed policies and resource limits for the period. This document has been uploaded on the National Treasury website for public review and comments. I want to invite you to go to the National Treasury's website to see for yourself, because it's a public document, the budget policy statement. It will show you where we want this country to go. It will also show you the budget ceilings for each sector. You can see how much we are allocating for health, how much we are allocating for education, how much we are allocating for social intervention, and how much we are even allocating for infrastructure, and all the other sectors, including security, so that you can comment, you can inform the discussion around the budget for 2026-27. A lot of times, we wait until the budgets are concluded, then we start lamenting and complaining why a specific sector has not received enhanced budgetary provision. Yet now you have the opportunity to make your voice heard by the National Treasury and the government of Kenya and through National Assembly. Please take advantage of this window and communicate with us. Even if you write to National Assembly, all the correspondences received at the National Assembly must be acted on. That I have communicated to my team, and they are aware. So please take advantage. So I'm looking forward to receiving valuable comments from to inform the finalization before submission to Parliament by mid-February. I wish to urge for your concerted effort to enable us build a Kenya where opportunities are accessible to all, where youth are empowered to lead, and where our collective aspirations become reality. Together, we can forge a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient nation. Ladies and gentlemen, as I come back to privatization, privatization is often part of a broader process of structural reform. Privatization transactions are very complex and require careful consideration of a number of issues. Well-designed and implemented privatization policies are essential to ensure credibility of reforms, to help governments achieve their objectives, and to create efficient and competitive markets for goods and services. Privatization of state-owned enterprises ushers in the private sector to participate in commercial activities that government-owned enterprises are undertaking. And that is why recently we passed a bill which is now an act of parliament and is part of our legal framework called Government-Owned Enterprises Act. That act has brought significant reforms in how we are governing or going to govern commercially viable, profitable government entities, about 60 of them. They are going to be run with a commercial mindset, not where when Mbadi fails in his bid, in his political bid, then you find space for them in these state-owned enterprises. That is going to be a thing of the past. Board members or governance structures of these state or government-owned enterprises are going to be recruited competitively through interviews, and they are not going to remain political appointees as it is today. We will still continue making political appointees in other state-owned enterprises that are not commercially viable or which are not profit-making. You can go and earn some allowances in those other enterprises. But those which are considered commercial enterprises are going to be run with a business mindset. That is the reform that we have brought in state-owned enterprises. Let me move quickly to conclude my formal address. Then I will have a few minutes to engage you off the cuff. Na hapo naweza ongea Kijaluo nikipenda. So this is necessary because the private sector carries out commercial activities more efficiently, and that has been said, than the public sector, especially in a competitive industry. By the way, I hope you are aware that you as individuals and your private businesses are included when I make reference to the private sector. Every one of us here belongs to the private sector. So the benefits of privatization include lower prices, and that it surprised me when many of us had the feeling that if we privatize KPC, that it would result into higher prices. That, far from it, it should be the reverse. And I will explain to you once I finish my speech. Results in better quality of goods and services produced, wider choices for consumers, more innovation, minimal red tape in decision making, and less corruption. To safeguard these benefits of privatization, the government has a social obligation to maintain a fair business environment through appropriate regulations and policies. Already, Kenya has developed a fairly robust regulatory environment with the Competition Authority of Kenya overseeing all sectors of the economy, supported by sector-specific regulators such as Communications Authority of Kenya. So privatization as a key tool to address the following three major economic balances government, which I want to mention, the three major economic issues that need to be addressed through privatization. One is the government debt, two is the public expenditure, and three is revenue raising. So in this regard, a robust program must be designed to address fiscal sustainability challenges by limiting government debt, constraining budget deficits, and promoting counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Having pursued fiscal consolidation in the recent years, the policy has now reached optimal levels and hence cannot be pushed further. Kenyans have told us no more taxation. No more taxation. Ama kuna mtu hapa anataka tulipe ushuru zaidi ya what we are paying today. Kama kunaye, nataka kuona ukiinua mkono kama unataka kulipa more taxes. Kuna mtu hapa anataka tuendelee na kukopa deni zaidi? Then we must be innovative. We must be creative, because services must still be provided. Kenyans still want services. So for us to finance those services without more taxes and without taking more debt, then we must be innovative. We must be creative. Number one, we must curb corruption. We must reduce corruption. That is why we are coming up with measures like e-procurement, treasury single account, to make sure that we reduce the exposure that public officers have in taking advantage of our systems and misdirecting our taxes. And then we have to also raise revenues in a different way. Having pursued fiscal consolidation in the recent years, as I said, the policy has now reached optimal levels and hence cannot be pushed further. In this case, an economic stimulus mechanism must be pursued. You will agree that unlike taxation, and I hope you listen there, unlike taxation, privatization never reduces private sector wealth. Privatization, in most cases, encourages propensity to invest and enhances aggregate demand, which in the long run would widen the revenue base. Taxation reduces private sector wealth. When you are taxed, money is being taken away from you. It reduces your wealth. Whether you are very rich, moderately rich, or barely surviving, like many of us. But still, we are coming for your money in your pocket, despite the struggles. So taxation is something that, even though we can't avoid it, but it reduces our wealth. But privatization does not. It does the opposite. Privatization gives you an opportunity to invest your resources that you have in an asset that would be profitable and that would give you more resources. As I conclude, I want to say that our economy is in a critical turning point. And to sustain the economic achievements realized thus far, both from a macro and fiscal perspective, the low inflation that we are talking about, the interest rates that are coming down. By the way, 1 year ago, the average bank lending rate was at 17.2%. Today it is 14.9%. It is coming down. And I want to, that I think is a message I'm sending to our friend from the Chambers of Commerce. It is coming down, although we would want the interest rates to come down at a faster rate than it is today. And that is why we are telling banks they must take advantage of the rates, that the lowering of the base lending rate, to bring down the rates of loans that we give to the private sector. But for us to maintain that momentum of these positives at the macro and fiscal level, we must turn to innovative financing mechanisms to fund our infrastructure and public service projects. So as the financial needs of the government continue to outpace available public resources, private sector participation has become a critical tool in addressing infrastructure gaps, enhancing service delivery, and promoting sustainable development. There are many success stories on privatization, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, before you allow me to make a few off-the-cuff remarks. It is not just Safaricom. By the way, let me remind you, Safaricom was barely a department in the government. So a small thing, making some meager profit. And people were happy with it that time, that this is a profitable company. The government took a decisive decision in 2008 to privatize Safaricom. In fact, even earlier, to invite partners. Then after that, after inviting the partners, in 2008, the government offered to the general public part of Safaricom. That is why today we own 25% of Safaricom as individuals, as Kenyans. 25%. Look at the transformation that has taken place in Safaricom. The kind of profitability of this venture. What makes you think that we have reached the optimum? There is still room for Safaricom to even be more profitable. And let me tell you, the technology space and telecommunication, more particularly telecommunication, is advancing rapidly. You cannot afford to be static. But with heavy government presence in Safaricom, we will be stifling growth in Safaricom. Because government by its nature, whether you go to America, you go to China, you come back to Kenya, is bureaucratic. Government systems are bureaucratic. It is like there is a policy in government that a document cannot be transacted fast. So if you want to allow private sector to thrive, I mean a company to thrive or a business to thrive, you must inject private sector ethics into the management of that entity. That is why I am saying, apart from Safaricom, look at KCB. Kenya Commercial Bank was on its knees, was barely surviving a while back. Where is it today? It is one of the most profitable banks in this country, comparable only to a few. Because of privatization. Kenya Power, someone talked about Kenya Power, whether we will privatize. Kenya Power is already enjoying privatization. We privatized Kenya Power and Light. Before, it was running into losses and losses and losses. Today, Kenya Power has started making profit because of privatization. What of Kenyan? I can go on and on. Of course, there are also failures, like Uchumi. We tried to privatize it. It's a total flop. So it depends on how you execute privatization and the timing. If your timing is wrong, you will get it wrong. And I will tell you, with my knowledge and understanding, our timing for Kenya, for KPC, the Kenya pipeline, is perfect. If we don't do it now, believe me, we will regret a few years to come. Don't ask me why. This is the time to privatize KPC to make it more profitable. That is a company that has the potential. If you have money, if you have some money to spare, kindly save it. We are issuing IPO next week for Safaricom. God willing. Thank you. Wacha sasa nirudi kwa off the cuff. And I want to say this in English before maybe you allow me. I know there are a few of us in the gathering who don't understand Doluo, including my great friend deputy governor. Lakini siku hizi unaishi hapa Migori. I am sure you understand a lot. If I were you, I would still continue pretending that I don't understand. Yes, nijue kina nani wananisengenya. But let me point out the following. I have spoken a lot about budgets. And ladies and gentlemen, maybe you don't know. Let me tell you. Many of you who saw me lose weight when I got into this office, you don't know why. Our economy for a long time has been on its deathbed. To the extent, inafika tarehe 15 and you have not cleared paying salaries for public servants. It was that frustrating. 15 of the following month, people who have worked for the government have not been paid in full. Loans, external loans are coming up for payment, debt settlement, and you don't know whether you will pay them or not. Kenya was listed among 6 countries in Africa by IMF which were going to default, not which would have defaulted. No, they were going to default. It was just about when. 5 of those countries have defaulted. It's only Kenya which has not defaulted. And by the way, many of us don't know the implication of defaulting. That is an economy that is completely ruined. The moment you default, that is an economy that cannot easily come back unless now you just become slaves of other people. They will be directing you, do this, remove staff. How many staff do you have in your payroll? 3 million, 2 million. That's what would have happened to Kenya. You are told how many chiefs do you have across the country? We have 10,000, remove 5, remain with only 5. And you have no choice, you'll take them home. How many county commissioners? Go home. How many teachers? No, you can survive with half. How many MCAs? You must make sure that the MCAs across the country from 1,400 reduced to half. Members of parliament reduced to half. Salary, everybody reduced by half. That is what would have happened to Kenya. So, it is because of decisions that have been taken over the years. Some of them are very faulty. You invest in an infrastructure project that has 30 years of repayment period, payback period, 30 years, and you are taking a loan of 5 years to finance it. 5 years loan for a project that will start paying you in 30 years. Are you being clever? Are you being wise? And then you also don't have any space for taxation. Yet, economy must grow. Our youth, Kenya has one of the fastest growing population in the world. And we are educating our youth, and they are very intelligent and sharp. And they are coming out of school, out of colleges with no jobs. Our economy growing at 4%, 5% cannot create enough jobs. We must make this economy grow at 7%, 7.5% and above. That you can only do, you cannot do that by being complacent and comfortable with the way things are. We must invest more in infrastructure in this country to expand the economy of the country without A, taxing people, 2, taking expensive loans that would be impossible to pay. So where do you run? You have assets here. You have Safaricom. Making profit, yes. But out of it, you can raise 240 billion shillings at one go by selling only 15% of it. You have 35%. You can still retain 20%. And by the way, it is not just this government which is selling or offloading shares. It's actually not even sale. It's offloading shares. It's only Uhuru Kenyatta who did not offload shares in Safaricom. Moi did 40%. Kibaki did 25%. We are only doing 15%. Why this noise about 15%? Why didn't you make noise when Kibaki was releasing 25%? Or is it because of ethnicity? What is the justification? 240 billion. How much dividend are we getting out of 15 billion today? Out of 15 billion today, we would be getting about 6 billion shillings. Divide 240 by 6. 40 years. It will take us 40 years to get, if we retain the 15% and get dividends. That dividend, if we get the 240, that 240, we will take 40 years. So you want to refuse money today because you want to earn the same money for 40 years. Will you be alive? You have not even factored the time value of money, because 240 billion today is not 240 over the years up to 40 years. So long as where you put that money makes sense. And that is why we are saying that, yes, we have some infrastructure projects which can be commercially viable. Roads we can toll, dams which we can use for irrigation, commercial irrigation. We have energy in this country. The reason why we have blackouts all over the place is because Kenya is generating only 3,000 megawatts per year. But our economy should generate no less than 10,000 megawatts. Where are we going to get money to generate more power? Mutaua wandai bure, ati wandai anafanya kuna blackout, anatoa power wapi? He cannot manufacture power in Ugunja. He needs to invest money to generate power and transmit it across everywhere in our villages and in our factories. Where does he get that money? He has to come to me. Where do I get the money? If I cannot offload these shares, what do I do? I will go to IMF, World Bank, to China, to borrow loans expensively. Who will pay it? You and your grandchildren. If I cannot go for loan, I will come for your money. I will come for your salary. I will come for ile pesa unatengeneza ukiuza mboga. But if I can't come for it, allow me to offload some shares. And what we are saying, we are offloading these shares. We get 240 billion and put it in an infrastructure fund. That infrastructure fund is going to crowd in private sector. So what am I saying? Let me just explain it in a minute. If, for example, a road has been costed. Now, let me not give the example of a road. Let me give the example of JKIA. We have the worst airport in the region today. And we are the biggest economy in this region. Number 6 in Africa. The only economies which are bigger than Kenya in Africa is South Africa, Nigeria, Algeria, Egypt, and Morocco. All apart from South Africa and Nigeria, North Africa. Kenya is the only economy standing in this region. We have bypassed Ethiopia. Yet we have, what if I was speaking in Kijalu, I would say Kundudok. As airport, leaking. You arrive in Jomo Kenyatta and it is leaking. It's a shame. And it is costing around 260 billion shillings. If, for example, we make 20%, we take from this fund, 20% of that cost, which will be about 50 billion, and invest, and we cost it, and we say this airport will pay itself, because people who are coming in pay money at the airport. Those who are bringing goods pay money. The air ticketing, everybody, the airlines, they pay money. They will pay back. We take 50 billion, we look for people with money, institutional investors. Bila kwenda kwa dani, tutaenda kwa institutional investors who have money, both external and internal. And we partner. What in Kiingereza tunasema blended capital. And do that airport in 1 or 2 years. And then we start crowding in investment in this country. People start seeing Kenya as a serious investment destination. Who does not want that? And naysayers will always tell you, government watakula, watakula. Kwani ni sisi ndio tunaweza kula, wao hawezi kula? Why must we wait for them to be in leadership? And they have characters worse than some of us. Give us time, allow us space. We get these assets, optimize their value, and invest in our infrastructure. As I conclude, Kenya pipeline, we are again not selling, but we are releasing around 60-65% to you people and any other investor. We retain again 35 like we did with Safaricom. But that company will make more profits, and we are going to raise about 100 billion, which we can put in this fund and utilize to do major projects. We have listed across the country the roads that can be profitable across the country, including Migori and Homa Bay and everywhere else, and the rest of the country. We have listed energy projects. We have listed irrigation. Let me give you this example. Today, Kenya, for food security, out of analysis and assessment, Kenya requires about 10 million to 15 million more bags of maize every year. Beyond the rain-fed agriculture. Now sample this. Galana Kulalu, which we are now harvesting out of the 1,500 acres, 1,500 acres. Galana Kulalu, if we do the dam, we will irrigate 200,000 acres. And that dam costs 40 billion, 30 to 40 billion. And we can irrigate 200,000 acres. Each acre produces between 30 and 35 bags per one harvest. And you do 2 harvests in a year. That is between 60 and 70. Even if you take the lower, that is 60. And you multiply by 200,000 acres, that is 12 million bags. You have already sorted the food situation in the country. Who does not want that? And we need only between 30 and 40. Even if you take 40 billion, will come out of this infrastructure fund. And by the way, Galana Kulalu, the investors are already just around. They want us to invest, and then they come and invest their money and produce food for this country. That is the way we should be thinking. And we can release some of the fertile areas like Ketale, where we are growing maize. We release that area for coffee and tea and export and get foreign exchange to this country. Are those wild ideas? I don't think so. Atieko kawacho ni gima nokela kane en monda wuo gi jopiny waduoko sirikal e piny e grassroots sirikal ok en mar Nairobi. Katiba mane wakadho manyien ni ma 2010 ni okawo teko keto kuom japiny ma en gi an. Emomiyo nabiro iru ka mondo anyisu ni koro wachako loso budget mar higa manyien. To kendo be nabiro wuoyo kodu ni gik muwinjo awinja radio ni nitiere gimoro ni Kenya Pipeline gi Safaricom ni sirikal dwa uso. Adwa ni kawuono winji koa e dhoga. Iuso gi koso ok usgi. Safaricom wanie gi gimiluongo ni 35 ewi 100. 65 nosedhi ne jomoko. 35 ni ema wacho ni wadwa kawo 15 wachiw kendo wadong' gi 20 kende. 15 mwachiwo ni dhi miyowa pesa moro maduong' makore lach. Mwadwa ni waketi mondo konywa e loso gik machalo yore, mondo watim go gimiluongo ni irrigation, mondo wakel go stima ma ok ni koro stima to lala ng'ato timo welding ne to stima lal. Uwinja ni ng'ato nosekoni ni akelo ni pesa kiny abiro adwa ni los na koma ni mondo ka kiny adonjo to ayud ko ikore. Ikone ni mano ber, ikelo pesa di, an gi siling 10,000 kiny akelo ni. Kore ka sami kasori iloso kom, stima kore kolal. Stima dwa dhi seche 6 seche 8 imbi ol idok ot, kik dhako ne ni baro kuonde moko. Dhako riti. Kore kidok ka stima ne pod onge ikuongo wandai. To gima wandai timo onge nikech stima ema waonge go moromo. Koro wadwaro ni mondo wamany pesa ma wanyalo kelo go stima mabedo reliable. Rach koso be. Ok bende ratieka mane privatization. Koro adwa na wach moro koluwore gi Migori ka. Mondo atieki. Migori ka awinjo ka governor nowacho, governor mosiepna wacho ka Mbadi ja Homa Bay to Migori bihero. Onge Mbadi ma ja Homa Bay. Ana ja Migori. Migori county ka ema wuoro odake higni 17. Ema onyuolwa te. Kama onyuolwe mudonge mane dalau. Kuma antie cha alawe dak. Anja dak. Koro kichieng moro gitama bedo governor ma Homa Bay na jada. But governor ma Homa Bay be okadwar. Koro Migori ka kanyetimo budget manyoro nyo wadhi kodu maber. Ang'eyo ni budget manyo waketo jipenjo ni to nderni manowachi ka gin kanye. To donge nyu neno ka nderni gi nyocha wagolo pesa molandgi. Sama nyo landgi ka una miu report. Nderni 7 nyocho landi e Migori county ka. Nderni 7. Sama wawueni nderni 2 kuomgi wachgi oserumo. Contractor osebedo identified imiyo baru week manyien. Ma endara ma wuok Kanyawanga kadhi dede nyaka Rapogi. En wach ni oserumo. To gendara machielo ma wuok Posta Ikendo Nyarongi to dhi nyaka Makalda. Ndeni 2 go jokera osetieko wachgi. Gin osetieki imiyo gi contractor. Nderni 5 pod inono buge mondo kiny jo EACC mak jokera ni gitimo procurement marach. Nderni 5 gi inono gi kotieki gimbi imiyo contractors barua. Achiel en Stella Gogo. Mar 2 en Nyarobiro Kombe Nyanchabo Road. Mar 3 en Otho nyaka Got Kacho $1. Mara ngwen en kababu bondo nyaka pinyo yie. Kae to mogik en nyamtiro kegonga kugitimo nyaka Loliondo. Yorego itimo negi evaluation as we speak. Pod itimo negi evaluation. Koro adwa wacho ni it is not empty talk. Whatever we had put in the budget, we are releasing money as we get money, and they are being advertised and they are being awarded. The 2 roads I've mentioned have already been, the contractors are identified, they are going to be awarded. Then we give what we call mobilization fee, then we launch them, and I will come personally to make sure that they are launched and they are constructed. We are in Migori TTC. Pardon? Mamiuru. I don't know why they have left it. Mamiuru is among the 5. Then it is list morning or naka. Ndarama ilungo ni Masara nyaka Meuru. Engi a budget of 487 nembe chocho lande. More team evaluation upon na kwayo ja roads na list. Then I'm aware of that list, that road out. But angeyo ni enbe obedo evaluated to be awarded. Sawa sawa. I'm sorry not on any complication neto tere umos. Mokwango muwa chuma sorry no adich go moloyu. Ene yo madich go but any complication ni the contractor po kwa golo ndara elwete officially. I don't want to lie to you. Nindara mawok Masara kadi sorry ni biro tieki tomorrow. No, we have to make sure ni terminate the tender kai to worry advertise. Mawok golo muoka di sorry advantage manyo one go. Any no bed awarded 2 contractors by mistake. And that award by mistake has come again to be a blessing to us. Because now when one contractor has failed, we have instructed a contractor from Suba now to proceed all the way to St. Camilas to connect the 2 roads. I am very happy because now I will not be stuck in the mud. Gewa achoni minister mane mamoke chuodho. Goro kabi moke chuodho kendo Nyasaye okonya anbe lemna uru kanyo. Donge ugona mean. Goro we ura tieki. Keji questions wuok birumo. Adwa tieko kawacho mana kaugini koro. Wach ni orumo. Migori ka TTC. When a principal, you know, we had already allocated for you a budget for the issue of, what do we call them? Asbestos, and also to do tuition block. There's 100 million. Nikirudi Nairobi, unikumbushe, we release the money, exchequer, ikuje, mjenge. Nyako chao kwa weche rio, I'll connect with you, printer pesa di mikwa yo minister niya. Printer toknu kwa yo kada MCA kai. Printer no pesa di. How much? 60,000. Around 50,000. When a principal liars with me, I give you money for printers. Lakini mano to kada majority kata mnachuora. Oingo gino. Mano gi makra chuora e odonge. Hello? Hello? Kono joturwa. Nadwa na wach nu wach mogiko so kora we. A wach mogik ni. Comrades, ange uni untie. Abiro neno ukatie koma. Uwinja. Awinjo. Aya. Jobunge dwa dhi chiemo gi President Nairobi. Uwinjo jothurwa. An gima sesome siasa nyaka nadonjie. To kendo bende japuonjre mar Raila Odinga igni mang'eny. Nawachonu ni an achako donje siasa mar baba, jomoko nyokona na luong ni the late, an luongo Raila ni the late pod otama. Baba iga prochiko kariyo. Gima sesomo e siasa ni nyakibed strategic. Nyakibed strategic. Wan kako ganda nyaka wabed strategic. Anadwa na wachnu nika wadwa survive kako ganda. Nika iko kwa survive gi unity mar oganda. Ni wapogore kako ganda. To bende kaka warumo politically. Onge ng'ama biro chako deo oganda mar onagi e Kenya ka ng'ama biro kawi serious onge. Nikech gimose miyo ikawa serious en riwruokwa. To gima biro ketho riwruokwa mar oganda en kokwa miyo jaduong' Oburu Oginga luor. Nikech wanyiswe ni onge piny ni ng'ama onge gi makosa. There is no leader without a weakness. Kata mana baba manyonindo ni wan wajo manyochiegni kode, I would tell you today. Wang'eyo weaknesses mag baba. Onindo goka. But ne waluwo baba religiously. Magi mowacho to bedo final. Oburu nyalo bedo gi weaknesses, but embe nigi strength ne. Oburu nyaka wami luor moromo gi luor mimiyo party leader gi luor mimiyo jatend oganda. We must do it. We have no choice. Gombo to wabiro bedo go. Ng'ato yiene gombo. Kata ini nyalo gombo mtoka maringecha. Mileki. Miakendo sa mileko ina makiketo lueti edirise woni en mariru kichieo. Tinwango ni kare ne manok gachi. Pok ni bedo minister mar finance. Tinyalo leko ni minister mar finance. Koso? So gombo yieni. Ng'ata magombo ogombi. To wawene Dr. Buru thuolo mar telo ne party mar ODM kendo ne telo ne oganda wa nikech Nyasaye emokete kanyo. Chieng' moro mar mbadi biro. Nyasaye biro keta. Kapok oketa ayie ni nyaka telna. To ka chieng' moro keta an bende biro dwaro ni ji oyie ni mondo atelnegi. Mana adieri koso miriambo. Adieri koso miriambo. To kendo kwadhi 2027 kwano mwagoyo en ni ere kamibidewa kako ganda. Ere gimwayudo kako ganda. To ka okwadhi kako ganda ng'ama biro kawa seriously onge. Ng'ata mabiro dwaro telo ne piny ni biro manyo jok moriwore. Biro manyo jok man gi nguvu, man gi voting power. Aketho kamoro? Koro uneno sani, jowa muneno wacho, ni mondo gol Ruto gi. Uneno ka giketo noningo gol Ruto to gi loso teams adek. Team achiel ok wene Ruto thuolo. Wuothe tiende ka seche te. To team machielo ni e sirikal, sabotage sirikal. Anang'egi. Team mar adek ni oko bakidi. To gin ginyalo timo mano nikech gin gi namba maduong'. To wan ok wanyal pogore kamano nikech namba wa ok duong' kamargi. Omiyo wan mondo mi wabed gi mbi mibuogo go ng'ato nyaka wabed mana kaka nyocha wan chon. Ema nomiyo nodewa Amolo wuod oganda. So anadwa mana kwayo kako oganda. Kendo kik wabed gi pogruok moko matindo tinde iwa. Ni ng'ane kia Jakure, ng'ane kia Jasiaya, ng'ane ja Homa Bay, ng'ane ja Migori. Onge ng'ama ong'e dholuo moloyo joluo mamoko. Waduto wawacho dholuo waduto. Koro an gima tieko 2032 kono ung'eyo ni onge arrangement mwabiro bede 2027 ka okwago kwan ma 2032. Ng'ata madonjo kodwa arrangement nyaka nyiswa roadmap ma 2032 nikech wan bende kaka oganda nyaka ne Kenya yudo uhuru to wan oganda mar tipo machalo kama kendo wan mwakedo ne Kenya ni to onge dichieng' moseyiene jaluo mondo otelne Kenya kanga mitiyo wa kamano. Wan bende nyaka waikre, nyaka wapangre, nyaka watim jogging, nyaka warwak sirweche motegno miluongo ni uniform mar 2032. Ji adi moyie gi mano? Aparo nigi kanyo, uwe achop gi kanyo. Kech ung'eyo ni ng'ama notimo ang'o? Ni ng'ama notimo ang'o? Ni ng'ama notimo ang'o? Ni ng'ama notimo ang'o? Ng'ama nong'eyo onge. To Nyasaye me polo malo to notimore nade? Nyasaye me polo malo to notimore nade? Thank you very much. Kora aparo ni bende gi kama chopene. Aparo ni ji osebedo nyaka koro saa 7 chopo. We have done our best. Okapar ni there is even need for again opening up any discussion. All the sectors were represented here effectively. And the issues came from the groups. And Mbadi has responded. Sawa sawa. Aparo niki kama wagikeni. Kuiye na tokoro wa progress wadi at the next level. Maeni waneno ni tuwawuoka nango. O kamano. Koro ere organizers naka mondo miya consult go. Hey. Aya. Kora paro ni kama chope no onyisa ni angade. And when angado, everything is sorted. Everything is sorted. Joga ginika make sure ungeo all the groups, all the categories kaka nubiro. Make sure nubiro sorted. Ya wamanoko gobe nabiro oko kanyo. Koro unirita uru oko kanyo. Abi wawinjore.
And welcome back to Jeff Quinange live here at Citizen Television. On the bench tonight, it's the firebrands. They may be backbenchers, but I'm telling you, these MPs are outspoken. Kiaro MP Didi Nyoro is in the house, as is Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Didi, real quick. Look, why are you so uneasy with your party? Since, it's not so long ago, you were the blue-eyed boy of UDA. Kwani kuliendaje?
Jeff, I think you should ask the party that, because I think it's the party that deviated. Because when we were campaigning and I had a chance even to come here to sell our agenda, I think the party wholesomeness is the one that has deviated from what we were to do. I've spoken on several things, but the primary ones is around the economy. We told Kenyans that we are not going to borrow the kind of money we are borrowing now, that we'd go through on borrowing, because for sustainable development, it's not just about spending now, but also about the future of our economy. Also, we were to give education the primacy it deserves. I don't think now that party is doing what we sold to the Kenyan people, and especially when it comes to the funding for in terms of education. And holistic things like, for example, what you are doing in terms of people are having alternative voices, as we have seen, especially with the young people, what has been happening. So I think once you get the representatives of the party, it's good that you pose that question to them, because I still believe in the same things we sold to the Kenyan people, and I believe they are the right things to do, whoever is in power.
Are you disappointed then with your party?
I am disappointed, and especially on the same things I've told you about. I am very keen about the economy, because for all the countries that we may admire to be like, all of them, the Asian tigers, the Western countries, what makes the country to be categorized as progressive is how it performs in terms of the economy. And we have not been doing very well. And let me give you just so that you see